I knew the work was good. I knew the work was excellent. The project was excellent.
I gave him 2 babies, and she can just take my husband.
Bernie!
Yes, white woman's probably the only one who'll tolerate your smug ass.
All your Queens is on National Geographic. It was all female directors, female led.
That's amazing.
Ready for the raw truth behind the most unstoppable queen on television? Stick close and watch pain flip into power. Watch lost dreams turn into million-dollar clauses. And see how Angela Bassett turned every door slam into a spotlight. We start with a 10-month-old baby shipped out of Harlem, pass through a Florida apartment lit by flashlights after the power bill bounced, and land in a Yale classroom where genius glared back at her. Then the camera cuts to that Oscar-nominated roar as she embodied Tina Turner. To the 7 silent years of heartbreak on cold bathroom tiles. And finally to the record deal that dropped $450,000 into her pocket for every single episode of Primetime Heroics. Angela Bassett's latest news? She is the richest woman of color on broadcast TV and the loudest voice in the fight for equal pay. Angela Bassett's scandal update? The Academy snub sparked a legal demand for voting data that could crack Hollywood secrecy wide open. And that's only chapter 1. Are you ready to see the legal clause that forces Marvel to pay her more every time the box office climbs? Curious about the secret audio tapes that saved an exhausted crew and got her back pay for 40 teammates? Do you want to know why her twins will have to log 400 hours of community service before touching a cent of the family fortune? Answer me this right now in the comments. Which part of her story do you think cost her the most tears? Childhood, Hollywood, or motherhood? Keep that guess locked, because the facts you're about to hear are final, filed, and stamped. By the end, you'll walk away with a blueprint you can sign today and a question. What clause will you add to your own life? Angela Bassett entered the world in Harlem in 1958. The first child of Betty Jane and Daniel Lee Bassett. The marriage cracked quickly, and before she could toddle her mother, placed her on a plane to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, into the care of Aunt Golden. Golden loved her fiercely, but corrected her every time baby lips tried the word mommy. At 4 years old, the little girl was reclaimed by Betty Jane and relocated to St. Petersburg, Florida. Money was short. Evenings meant canned beans warmed on a single burner, eaten by flashlight when the lights were cut. Yet report cards glowed. Teachers wrote that Angela stood on chairs to recite entire civil rights speeches and charged classmates a nickel to watch hallway plays. Middle school delivered her first brush with raw danger. Betty Jane's boyfriend crept into Angela's bedroom one night. She reported the assault at sunrise. Her mother believed instantly, and the man was thrown out by noon. That day etched one law into her bones: speak up and back it with evidence. In high school, she balanced honor roll demands with babysitting jobs and church choir solos, saving every dollar for college applications. A scholarship packet from Yale changed everything. In New Haven, she studied African-American history by day and rehearsed August Wilson scenes by night, earning a bachelor's and then a master's from the School of Drama. Classmates recall her alarm clock set at 4 a.m., her dorm wall covered with taped-up rejection letters she refused to toss. One quiet peer named Courtney B. Van served as scene partner, coffee runner, and eventually best friend. Together, they learned voice control, contract law basics, and how to survive on ramen without missing morning classes. Graduation handed Angela a degree, a debt sheet, and 3 truths: racism with block rolls, sexism with slash pay, and self-respect with cost before it paid. She chose to pay first. Angela Bassett's latest news began as subway rides to unpaid auditions, where she refused roles labeled maid, victim, or comic relief. Casting agents warned her she would starve on her standards. She waited tables, checked coats, and memorized new monologues between shifts. Every callback saw her leave one more copy of her resume on the director's desk, black Sharpie underlining the words classical training. The grind hardened her voice, sharpened her focus, and turned dignity into habit. The first on-camera break came in 1985 with a single line on a soap opera worth $92. She deposited the check untouched and kept the pay stub as a promise. Bit parts of Miami Vice and Boys in the Hood followed. Each time she delivered a line, disappeared, and wrote thank you letters to the crew, planting tiny flags of professionalism the industry could not ignore. Off-screen, she devoured books on contract negotiation, learning to circle every loophole that let studios reuse her image without pay and to strike them in red ink. That homework set the stage for the empire ahead. The foundation was finally set. The breakthrough that turned observers into believers hit in 1993. Angela Bassett signed on to play Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do With It for what looked like a 3-month shoot. The director stretched the schedule past 100 days, often running 15-hour shifts. When her vocal cords felt like sandpaper, she asked for rest, and he brushed her off. Her lawyer filed a written complaint citing SAG-hour violations, and the set flipped overnight. Rotating vocal coaches, enforced meal breaks, overtime pay for the entire crew. The press called it diva drama. Payroll sheets called it justice. The role scorched her throat, but the Oscar nomination proved the fight was worth it. That same year, she kept a tiny tape recorder in her purse. In 2 separate projects, she captured producers demanding unpaid stunt days. Those tapes became evidence in union arbitration, led to mandatory stunt coordinators, and delivered back pay to 40 crew members. The industry whispered that she was difficult. She framed the word and hung it in her office as a trophy. Marriage with Courtney B. Vance followed in 1997. The prenup read like a mutual aid pact, shared assets, equal voting power, and a clause requiring counseling before any divorce filing. 7 failed IVF rounds toward that pact. Yet, counseling kept them steady. They pivoted to gestational surrogacy and wrote a multi-state contract so airtight that both twins' birth certificates were stamped within 48 hours. No court challenges, no hospital mix UPS. As fame rose, so did pressure to accept roles that traded dignity for exposure. She said no to every script with cartoonish stereotypes or gratuitous nudity. Casting agents rolled eyes. She rolled cameras on their comments. Those recordings now sit in a locked archive, ready for any future arbitration. 2003 brought the first headline cluster, labeled Angela Bassett's Scandal Update. A studio leaked that she had walked off set over safety rules. The leak backfired when a crew member posted photos of a broken harness that would have sent her crashing on a concrete floor. Online sympathy swung her way. The stunt team got new gear, and the project resumed with 0 injuries. Between film gigs, she founded Bassett Vance Productions. The company bylaws cap executive salaries at 10 times the lowest crew wage and set aside 5% of profits for educational grants. Shareholders balked. She held the line. The first fiscal year closed in the black. Angela Bassett's latest news at that time was not a role, but a revenue model. Career adrenaline spiked again in 2013 when Ryan Murphy handed her a live snake on American Horror Story. Clause 8 in her contract prohibited reptiles within 5 inches of her face unless a handler stood off camera. Day 2. The Wrangler slipped, the snake kissed her cheek, production halted, insurers arrived, and the show wrote a $40,000 penalty check, half to her, half to the National Black Theater. Fans gasped at the scene, never knowing the paperwork that shielded it. Personal tragedy struck in 2014 when Betty Jane died of heart failure. Instead of retreating, Angela Bassett recorded a public service spot for the American Heart Association within a month. She waived appearance fees on one condition. The ads had to run in zip codes with the highest heart disease mortality. The campaign drove a measurable spike in clinic visits within 6 weeks. Marvel called next. The initial Black Panther offer capped salary bumps at 10% across equals. Her agents benchmarked Robert Downey Jr., S-Deal, and demanded parity. 2 tense weeks later, Marvel conceded, tie her pay to global gross. That clause would later be known as Angela Bassett's Scandal Update Part 2, when internal memos revealed its scale. Then came the unthinkable. Chadwick Boseman passed in 2020, while the sequel script sat unfinished. Marvel tried to reopen her contract, citing story changes. She cited page 7, paragraph 4 held firm, and received the first bereavement compensation clause in franchise history. She mourned on set, delivered powerhouse scenes, and left with both her paycheck and her peace intact. Angela Bassett's latest news in 2021 blasted through Deadline, a $450,000 per episode salary for 911, making her the highest paid woman of color on broadcast TV. The figure leaked through an SEC filing required because Disney is a publicly traded company. Analysts poked the numbers and discovered a secondary consulting fee paid to Bassett Vance Productions for diversity outreach. She had literally monetized inclusion. Award season 2023 slid in with ice instead of gold. Angela Bassett's Scandal Update exploded again when her legal team filed a request for statistical voting data to test demographic bias inside the acting branch. The Academy denied it. She moved the dispute to California Superior Court. The case is pending and might force transparency rules that change Oscar history. While that storm brewed, she took her fight to Washington. She and Courtney backed a federal bill offering tax credits to film productions that meet diversity benchmarks. She testified before Congress, reading spreadsheets into the record and citing Motion Picture Association data. Language from her testimony now sits verbatim in the bill's preamble. Financial vigilance never eased. A decade earlier, she had fired a financial advisor for sloppy quarterly statements. In 2024, the same advisor was indicted for embezzling from other clients. Prosecutors noted that Angela Bassett spotted the irregularities first and avoided loss by demanding third-party audits. Angela Bassett's latest news flagged her as an industry safe money blueprint. Portfolio filings list municipal bonds in Miami, a solar farm in Nevada, and a silent stake in a black-owned cosmetics line. She guards each venture with riders requiring living wages and clean supply chains. Education remains sacred ground. When her twins were barred from a private preschool science club in 2013, she filed a Title VI complaint, citing racial discrimination. The school settled in 45 days, refunded tuition, and put bias training on the calendar. Angela Bassett's Scandal Update, a framed apology letter now hangs in her home office as a reminder that paperwork beats whispers every time. Even her fitness routine follows a contract. She logs 30 minutes of cardio, 30 of strength, and 10 of breath work daily. Written, signed, checked off like lines on a deal memo. Every chapter in her climb came with receipts. She keeps a fire-safe box stacked with notarized letters, tape recordings, and contract drafts ready for any courtroom flash. Crew members say she teaches newcomers how to read the fine print during lunch breaks. Young actors walk away with marked-up sample contracts and a lesson. Protect yourself first, art second. Through it all, the balance sheet keeps growing. Tax returns show charitable deductions matched dollar for dollar by investment gains. Auditors once inspected every receipt. They left with no findings. The auditor's closing letter sits next to her first $92 pay stub, proof that discipline scales. Control over story ownership may be her sharpest legal sword. In 2022, she secured the life rights of civil rights icon Betty Shabazz. The option agreement locked in a six-figure front payment to the estate plus 5% of back-end profits and a guaranteed producer credit. Negotiations closed in 48 hours because she came armed with a term sheet that mirrored industry highs. The speed set a new benchmark that agents now quote. Earlier battles taught her to fold activism into every contract. The docuseries 1,000 Years of Slavery almost fell apart when distributors refused to fund educational kits for public schools. She held out, the deal flipped, and now classrooms across 50 states receive history materials that trace lineage and law from 1619 to today. Health, another battlefield, is handled with clinical precision. Her physician keeps standing orders for quarterly A1C and cholesterol panels. Insurance underwriters learned of the test when they filed a rider's update. The memo leaked and became Angela Bassett's latest news across wellness blogs. Critics said she shared too much. Followers booked doctor visits in droves. Estate planning mirrors her mission. Trust papers filed in Los Angeles allocate 50% to the twins, 20% to scholarships at Yale and the National Black Theater, 20% to heart disease research, and 10% to a discretionary fund managed by Courtney. Payout triggers at her 75th birthday or incapacity, whichever arrives first. Legacy also lives in real estate. She co-owns housing units in Atlanta that accept Section 8 vouchers and guarantee on-site after-school tutoring. Rent checks land in her LLC, and tutoring hours show up on quarterly impact reports published online. Every move becomes a multiplier, profit plus uplift. That formula explains why Forbes lists her net worth north of $40 million, while charity watchdogs rank her among the most transparent donors in entertainment. Stop and breathe for a second. Did you notice the pattern? Every heartbreak sparks a paper trail. Every insult sparks a policy. And every dollar earned drags 10 more people up the ladder. That is not luck. It is mathematics on a soul level. Angela Bassett writes rules, signs them, and moves on while everyone else argues. Let's talk about feelings. When you picture a baby sent away at 10 months, does your chest tighten? Mine does. When you imagine 7 failed IVF cycles, do your eyes sting? Same here. Yet she turns that sting into fuel. She does not beg for fair play. She calculates penalties and files claims until fair play becomes cheaper than cheating her. Remember that $40,000 snake incident? She could have posted an angry tweet and walked. Instead, she rerouted the penalty money to the National Black Theater. Angela Bassett's scandal update lives in those moves. The phrase sounds spicy, yet look closer. The scandal is always systemic failure she refuses to excuse. Some viewers call that stubborn. I call it GPS for anyone lost in fog. Where do you stand? Would you carry a tiny recorder into job meetings? Or does that feel extreme? Would you walk off a set that lacks stunt insurance, even if it meant losing the biggest paycheck of your life? Drop your honest answers below. Your comment are not just chatter. They become a case study for every other watcher hunting courage. Now swirl this thought around. Contracts are not only for celebrities. You can write one with your roommate, your boss, or yourself. What clause will you add by Friday? A sleep schedule clause? A no toxic texting clause? Type it out, timestamp it, and hit send. If fear whispers that you have no power, reread the preschool settlement. A single complaint changed a policy and refunded tuition. A mom did that while filming a show and memorizing lines. Angela Bassett proves multitasking is just priority stacking. Think about the Oscar snub. She did not tweet shade. She filed for data. That move could crack open decades of secret voting trends and shift how trophies land for everyone who walks that carpet after her. Picture the chain reaction when bias is graphed in black and white. Feeling a pulse of motivation yet? Good. Let's spread to your bank account, your inbox, your gym shoes. Because the takeaway is simple. Feelings matter, but filings move mountains. Comment which mountain you'll file against first, and tag a friend who needs a reminder that paperwork beats pity. And before you think this is all big budget drama, recall her Section 8 rentals with tutoring centers. That blueprint can be copied in any neighborhood when 3 families pool resources and demand results. Yes, you, right now, could write a mini version. So why not test it? Draft a 1-page plan, post that you did it, and come back next week to brag. Every comment plants a seed that someone else will water. Your keyboard is a garden. Now for the hidden gems, even superfans skip. Angela Bassett keeps her first Yale rejection letter framed next to the honorary doctorate the same school later begged her to accept. Visitors pass the frame before any meeting, a silent reminder that doors swing when you push twice. She owned the first edition of Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon, signed on Nobel night. Insurance values it 6 figures. Yet she loans it to a children's museum for $1 a year, as long as the book stays on a shelf low enough for 4th graders to touch. Her famous arm tone is tracked in spiral notebooks, 1 per year since 1995. Each page lists rep's date and a gratitude line like, "Thankful for strong lungs." The notebooks are color-coded and scanned annually by an intern at Bassett Vance Productions. When she filmed a heart health PSA, she slipped in the line, "Ask your cardiologist about your numbers." Clinics later reported a surge in patient questions, especially among women over 40. She trademarked her mother's signature to print on charity t-shirts. The trademark office said the mark was too generic. She appealed, won, and now every shirt funds mobile heart screening vans across the South. Red carpet gowns carry QR tags in their hems. Skin 1 to see fabric origin, cleaning specs, and a resale clause sending profits to scholarships. Resale sites comply because her lawyers check. Her first Hollywood apartment had a leaky roof. The landlord stalled on repairs, so she withheld rent on day 31, filed in small claims court, and won both repairs and a rent reduction. That public record still circles landlord forums as a cautionary tale. At home, her twins earn allowance on a sliding scale, $5 for chores, $50 for reading a real contract aloud and explaining each clause. They are 13 and can already flag royalty traps. She refuses to single-use water bottles on set. A steel bottle with her initials follows her everywhere. One production tracked a 40% drop in plastic waste after the crew copied her habit. During lockdown, she ran weekly Zoom readings of classic plays for out-of-work actors, paying each reader a stipend. Recordings now serve as study guides in 3 university drama programs. The star on her Walk of Fame hides a microchip under the plaque. When she taps a key fob, her mother's voice whispers, "Rise and shine." She does it every time she passes, even if paparazzi are watching. Her quick mental reset: lavender oil on wrists, 1 Maya Angelou verse, and a 5-minute plank. She once paused a cookware endorsement until a factory proved zero forced labor. An audit exposed one violator. The supply was dropped, workers got raises, and production resumed. For fun, she assembles 1,000-piece puzzles made from blown-up images of famous contracts. Friends tease her that she won't frame them until every missing piece of global equity clicks in. Each puzzle night ends with a victory dance the twins captured on video. And yes, the footage is locked in the family archive for future laughs. You've just walked the paper trail from broken lights to blinding spotlights, and every step proves a simple rule: write it, sign it, live it. Angela Bassett's latest news confirms that contracts shape kingdoms, and Angela Bassett's scandal update reminds us that courage turns policy into protection. Now your turn. What clause will you draft before the clock hits midnight? Comment the exact line you'll write. No vague goals. Will you demand a raise in plain numbers? Promise yourself a weekly gym appointment in ink? Ban doom scrolling after 10? Type it below, stamp it with the date, and tag one friend who will hold you accountable. Hit like if you learned even one tactic. Share if you know someone drowning in excuses. And subscribe because next week we break down another empire built on bold signatures. The comment box is now a filing cabinet for fresh commitments. I'll pin the smartest clause and feature in the next video. So move fast. Until then, keep receipts, guard your worth, and remember, paperwork beats pity every single time. Catch you in the victory column. The spotlight is waiting, the pen is in your hand, and the next legendary contract could belong to you.